But we are not just giving away the money. The money is being loaned at a low interest rate. And the idea is that we want to create a revolving fund, but something that provides some seed money for those two groups which our research suggested were underserved and were having tremendous difficulty accessing funding from the traditional banking sector. And so we see the small business sector as another area for growth. In this COVID-19 pandemic, we saw youngsters rising to the occasion. We saw, for example, people using technology to do deliveries of groceries and the like. And we think that as this post-COVID period develops, we'll see more technology being developed, more apps being developed, and more young people putting their skill set to work to create niche industries to advance themselves and the country. So I've outlined some broad areas that we are already discussing in terms of what we can do. We are not giving up on tourism because, again, that remains the big fish, if you will, in the pond. But we recognize that that fish is wounded, and we must now do what we can to develop some additional industries around it, if you will, to allow us at least a bit of space if indeed the worst happens and we were to see a further collapse in the tourism industry. I did say the last thing, but you'd asked me and I didn't have a note, but the other thing is renewable energy, because we're going to continue to press on things like geothermal to try and create an alternative industry. And what can develop around that is, of course, manufacturing. If we can provide cheaper, cleaner energy, we hope that we would see some manufacturing developing there as a result. We had other areas. For example, I have said publicly that we, in fact, had a new operator for our call center in Brownhill, which when that call center closed, it displaced well over 100 people. I think it was 132, if memory serves. And we had secured another operator who was coming in to start. They indicated they would start with 80. They were actually on the airport in Miami en route to St. Kitts Nevis when we asked them to abort because we were closing the borders. And they were not able to come in and spend 14 days in quarantine. And so we have continued that dialogue, but with the borders closed, with the call centers, as you know, being as they are, which have people in close proximity. I think there was a massive outbreak in a call center in Jamaica, for example. These are areas we now have to rethink to determine what the best approach is going to be. COVID has changed everything, and we must now adapt to deal with the new reality and what is being referred to as the new normal.
What about the federal discussion?
So we can capture the question. Yeah.
Yes, you spoke of Nevis, but what about the federal discussion? That is crucial, I think.
The federal discussion is, in fact, crucial. I agree with you. That discussion I have not been privy to in terms of any discussion yet. I believe that since about March we were in the throes of this COVID pandemic, and then clearly by April, May we went into the throes of an election. Now that we're emerging from an election, I think that you'll probably be hearing from the Prime Minister in relation to that and those issues in terms of what that discussion is going to look like. And so that is something that I believe we must wait and hear from the Prime Minister as the Federal Minister of Finance. And that's why I opted to share what Nevis was looking at specifically in terms of the way forward. Okay, another question?
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
And, good afternoon, Premier Brantley. Jarvis Vaughan from Vaughan Radio. We just have 3 questions, sir. But first of all, congratulations to you and your CCM party in securing 3 seats in the Federal Assembly, and by extension, the Team Unity movement. But, sir, with regards to all that has been said, you mentioned, of course, that there are X amount of pounds for tomatoes and sweet potatoes and what's not.
Yes.
But is it enough to say, sir, for the record, of course, that Nevis is well taken care of when it comes to food security? And the second question is, I know that you have expressed just a little while ago that the CBI proceeds, a certain percentage, of course, for the CBI proceeds, part of the manifesto when it comes to the island of Nevis. But in addition to that, sir, what can the people of Nevis expect from the CCM party now that it has increased in the number of seats in the federal parliament? And the final question is, now I know you mentioned that with regards to your portfolios, do you think, sir, that of course you are now third in rank when it comes to the federal government, you are the leader of the CCM party, and of course you are the Premier of Nevis, but do you think that perhaps you should have been given more to your portfolio, so to speak, or are you satisfied with what you have been given, sir? And those are my few questions. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. I'll start where you left off about being satisfied. I believe that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Aviation is a significant ministry, and it is a ministry that I have sought to do the best I can. I believe that the performance of that ministry has been evident, and that people have, at home and abroad, commended the performance. And so I feel that it is an area that we ought to continue. It is a ministry where you are allowed to interact with the world, and therefore opportunities such as scholarships and the like that we have been able to develop, I think, is of great benefit. Just last week, two young ladies in St. Kitts, advised me that they were going off to Romania to study. And one said that she also had an offer from Azerbaijan. And I was very impressed with that, because it tells me that the messaging and the constant reiteration that we ought to seize opportunities when they arise, that is taking root, and to see two of our young women are heading out and taking that challenge for free education in those countries that are not traditional insofar as we go to for education, warm my heart. And I'm hoping that Nevisians who are listening will do likewise, because I continue to encourage them to take advantage. So I feel that that is the position. The ministries, insofar as Nevis was concerned, we had some discussions, of course, and some back and forth with the Prime Minister. My colleagues are satisfied with the ministries that they've been assigned. They feel that they can do good work for the benefit of both islands, the country, in those ministries. And so for me, really, it was a no-brainer to continue in my role. And for the others, they're satisfied. I think Minister Jeffers, Deputy Premier, having control of agriculture in both islands, provides some synergies that he can bring. He has clearly been successful at what he's been doing on Nevis, and to now translate that to St. Kitts as well, I think is of benefit to both islands. You ask, is it enough for the question of food security? My question would be, how does one determine what is enough? Our pledge in Nevis is to seek to ensure that we are better at food security, that we have greater food security on the island. Will we be completely self-sufficient in food? That is unlikely. I don't know how many countries can boast that they're completely self-sufficient. But once we can continue to produce, to feed ourselves, potentially to feed our neighbor in St. Kitts and even surrounding islands as well, and every pound of tomato that we produce means that there is less tomato being imported. We therefore are also achieving what is referred to as import substitution. It means that the island has to find less foreign currency to send to Miami to buy tomatoes. I was very heartened this week, for example, to learn, again from Agriculture and the Deputy Premier, that Nevis is no longer importing beef. That from our livestock at Madden's, the government livestock farm, that we are now producing all the beef that is being consumed on Nevis locally, meaning all the minced meat, the patties, and all that is produced at our abattoir and our meat processing is being produced here. Prior to this government, we were importing beef from Puerto Rico, importing beef from Statia, and we were bringing meat in. We are no longer importing beef. What that means, therefore, is that we no longer have to find money to send overseas to buy beef. That is now being done locally. These are the things, I think, which are very tremendous strides forward for food security on the island. And every step forward that we make in that regard is a good step. So the more fish we can find, the more beef we can produce, the more pork we can produce, the more chicken we can produce, the more fruits and vegetables we can produce, I believe that it augurs well for our food security. And as we produce and we get excess, we must now look at the quality and the ability to export. And so these are things, and I feel that there's a renewed energy in agriculture because of our response to COVID and our oft-stated goal that we must never again be dependent on tropical shipping coming into our port for our people to eat. And so to move the production, for example, of sweet potato from 640 pounds to 4,600 pounds, it tells you that we are making progress. We're not there yet, but we're making progress and we're moving in the right direction. What can Nevis expect from the CCM government? I think you can expect more good government. More good governance, more of the style of governance we have brought, which is putting our people first, more effort in trying to take care of our people, more effort in trying to attract investment, both local and foreign. We have done an excellent job, in my view, in leveling the playing field for investors. I believe it is next week that we have a significant investment that is opening, what they call on the Mutty Bottom, they call it, in the area. St. James, it's in St. James, as you near the drag strip, I believe. There's a Wally Funeral Home that is local investors have come forward. People from St. Kitts have invested significantly there. They have other investment plans, and that is what we are saying. And I have said from this rostrum time and time again, investment must not only be people coming in from someplace in a straw hat and flip-flops. We must also encourage our own people to invest. And I believe that message is resonating and that our own people are stepping up to the plate as well. And that is how we grow the economy. And so the people of Nevis have said very clearly that they prefer the concerned citizens movement. And we have earned their trust, and we will continue to work in a way to demonstrate that we are worthy of that trust. And that is what I think people can expect from us. More good governance, more effort at making the lives of our people better, more opportunities for our young people, more scholarships, more training, and an expansion of our local economy. Better health care as we continue to invest, and, of course, better everything, roads, infrastructure, water. And I think the evidence is there for all who have eyes to see, and even those who pretend to be blind. The evidence is there that we are moving in the right direction despite the challenges and despite the difficulties. And that is, there's no greater test than going to the people in an electorate. People say with good reason that it is wrong for Nevis to have these frequent elections. But you know the good thing about these elections? You always have a referendum on the performance of the government in Nevis. Because every 2.5 years, it is tested. And we were tested on the 5th of June, and people gave us a bigger majority in terms of the popular vote than they did on the 18th of December 2017. So it tells me that the people are satisfied, despite the naysayers. And there's nothing wrong with that. In a democracy, we expect that people will talk. But despite the naysayers, it tells me that the people of Nevis are saying that they are satisfied thus far with what they're getting. Because if after 2.5 years, they've given us an even bigger mandate, created history. I mean, who would have thought that the CCM could ever get 420 votes in St. Thomas's? Think about it. In all my years as a candidate, and I have won consistently federal elections since 2007. I won 2007 by 30 votes. I won in 2010 by 148. I won in 2015 by 340. I won in 2020 by 534. I hope you get where I'm going. The margins are getting bigger and bigger. But in every time I've contested a federal election, I have never won St. Paul's until this time. We won St. Paul's by 75 votes, which is unprecedented. So it sends a message that in every constituency there was a swing in favor of the concerned citizens movement, which as the local government tells us that the people have confidence in what we are seeking to do. And that, I like to think, is a good midway point to test the popularity of the government. And I believe the people responded overwhelmingly. Mr. Hanley?
Mr. Brantley, you mentioned that you don't know exactly what were my plans for Gingerland. I had a clear plan. My plans were, I had a clear plans to create jobs in the constituency. We had a plan for Old Manor, to redevelop Old Manor into a skills training center and business center by purchasing it. And we had a plan for Zetlands as well, and also the public market there to turn it into a nice farmers market. We had a comprehensive agricultural plan.
Was your plan articulated to the people of Gingerland, Mr. Hanley?
In the time that was given, yes.
And what did they say about your plan?
From visiting homes in Gingerland, they were very impressed with my plans.
And after visiting the homes, the homeowners went out to vote. What did they say?
Well, those who I spoke to, many of them went out to vote, and it is clear that they would have voted for me. I had a plan for the library as well, which is closed, to turn it into a state-of-the-art modern library with Wi-Fi internet. And all of those would have created jobs. I had a plan for the health center, which is closed as well, to create a nice modern medical center with an ambulance pharmacy, create some jobs there as well. My plan was a jobs plan, and I took note that you said we have the Ministry of Agriculture now in both islands. So perhaps we can get my agricultural plan that I had for Gingerland to increase fishing, to turn Indian Castle into livestock farming, to turn the whole of Gingerland into fruits, plant fruit trees, increase farming there, hire persons. They would be able to take their crops to the Gingerland public market, which will be redeveloped into a nice farmers market. We can have fresh meat there coming from Indian Castle, fresh fish. We can get that done. I took note that you didn't mention the representative, the Honorable Eric Evelyn, for constituency number 10, his portfolio, which is environment. He's now Minister of Environment. I am told that that is like a quarter. That is just a quarter of a ministry that was there. So they took a quarter of a ministry that was there and give it to our representative in Gingerland, the Minister of Environment. I think that both environment and agriculture could work together, though, and get my agricultural plan implemented in Gingerland so that we will be able to create jobs, 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 and more jobs. That was my campaign, a simple campaign to create innovative jobs. So I'm asking you, please, to look at my plans and programs and see what we can do to enhance the lives of our people.
Okay. Mr. Hanley, thank you very much. A beautiful campaign speech, but the election was on the 5th of June. And your plans, jobs, 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 and programs, that's why I asked if the people heard you. Because I would imagine the speech you've just made, you would have made leading up to that election. And alas, the people did not agree with you. So, too much noise, well, I don't know. You should have made your voice louder, because the people would have heard your plans. And as I said, that is the beauty of elections. It's an opportunity, it's a contest. And having heard your plans of jobs, 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 and more jobs, I think you said you plant both vegetable and fruit trees, if I recall correctly. The people rejected you overwhelmingly. So I think you just need to accept that, go back to the drawing board. Maybe your plans were good in your mind, but not persuasive to the people. So I don't know if making the same speech here today is going to make any difference, because you had the opportunity before the election and the people would have rejected that speech and rejected the plans that you're talking about. Insofar as the ministries working together, I agree with you. I think that the ministries that are held by the Honorable Eric Evelyn, cooperatives and the environment, are ministries that work well with agriculture, work well with foreign affairs. And that is why, as I said to the question that was asked, that the ministers from Nevis were found the ministries allocated to them acceptable in the circumstances. And we feel that we will work with what we have, and ultimately our goal is to benefit the people of our country. That is why we think that the people voted for us. If there are no more questions, all right, thank you very much, members of the media. Thank you for coming. Mr. Richards, your first foray into this press conference. I trust to see you back and some more from Win FM. Thank you, Mr. Hanley. You're always here. Thank you, Monique Washington of The Observer. And, of course, Von Radio, which is always here and covering. And I think in the back, resplendent in blue, is THG. So I want to thank you for being here as well. And NTV thank you as well. Normally we have more people, but as I said, in the context of the COVID-19, we wanted to space the room as effectively as possible. Thank you all very much. We will announce the date of the next meeting for this press conference, and I'm delighted that I was able to resume after a hiatus, and we hope now to move forward. Thank you for being a part of this. You're taking a photo as I'm putting on my face.
Well, you could leave it on.
I'll leave it on. That's good. Is that good? Wait, let me fix my pocket square and everything. So I see my tie is straight. My tie is straight? This way? This way?